Morning, start of day 3. So yesterday was the end of the tech stuff, and today's start of the World War II sort of memorial museum visits. And I'm starting off this morning at Memorial de Caen, which apparently is a really big one. I've never been here before. I've been to some of them, but not this one. So yeah, I'm just walking there now. It's about a 20-minute walk away from the hotel that I'm staying in. Little rundown of yesterday afternoon then. So I finished the TET, which was really good. Had a really good time, and I jumped on the roads to the hotel, which is kind of like the northwestern side of Caen, really. But what I will say is, if you have a Garmin, I've got the Zumo XT. I was absolutely amazed at the adventurous routing function. When you put in a destination, you've got the go button, and then there's like an orange button with some mountains on it. And actually, the route that gave was really, really good. It took me through some really cool little villages, some lovely like farmland and whatever else, countryside. Not many people, not many cars, which was absolutely ideal. So yeah, that was a fairly decent ride, but I was running a bit low on storage space on the camera, so I didn't really capture much of that. The hotel I'm staying in is a basic, like almost like a motel type setup. It's a very basic room, and I almost felt a little bit underwhelmed last night when I got there, and I felt a little bit out of it compared to the place I was staying at before, which was right in this little sort of town, and it just felt, I don't know, I felt a little bit more connected to it, I guess. But this place just feels very like it's an industrial site. There's big shops, there's car garages and other hotels and stuff, and it just feels very industrial, I guess. So I felt a little bit underwhelmed last night with that, and then I struggled to find somewhere to go and eat. I mean, a lot of like the restaurants that if you look on Google Maps trying to find a restaurant, a lot of them they seem to just be open during the day or closed at sort of 6 or 7, unless you go right into the centre of Caen, which I didn't really want to do. There was a kind of slim pickings, so I went to a Buffalo Grill, which I imagine's an American restaurant that's found its way over here, but that was simple enough. Just had a burger and whatever else, and then went back to the hotel and just chilled out. But yeah, it was a bit of an odd feeling, and I almost felt like I should have booked somewhere else, but ultimately I am using it as a base to go and explore some of the D-Day stuff, the World War II stuff. So that's all it is. I kind of got over that now. So yeah, so we are probably halfway. Do a quick map check, but probably halfway to where we need to be. Yeah, I think if I take this little path just coming up here, that basically takes me right to the front door. So the plan is I'm going to do the Memorial de Caen this morning, and then speak to a couple of guys at breakfast this morning that are overdoing from the UK, doing similar stuff, like the museums and D-Day tour or whatever. They reminded me of a museum that I went to a very long time ago that I completely forgotten about, which is the Overlord Museum, which is by Omaha Beach. And I was going to head down that way this afternoon anyway, and they said it was very good. Things are almost set up in like scenes, rather than just like a random figure, a random tank or whatever else. Things are set up in kind of scenes for you to have a look at. So I am going to take a ride up there later this afternoon. It's about half hour away, so that's the plan. I'm almost at the place that I need to be at. Hopefully I'm going the right way. I'll double check the map in a second, but once I'm in there, I'll have a look around. Okay, so that is the Memorial de Caen done. Just leaving now. As you can see, the rain has come back. So it's 1 day of respite from the rain. Just trying to keep the bag dry that's not waterproof. But it was really good in there. Visually, in terms of like seeing old items and tanks and whatever else, it's pretty lacking on that front. But the sort of the first section is the lead up to the war, informing you why, how, when, etc. And then it goes on to talk through the rest of the war, including what happened to the Jewish population, the resistance, and then on to the Normandy stuff, which was a bit short. But again, there's a lot of information there. It just wasn't very long. There was a couple of there was two kind of cinema shows, one of which I watched. The other one was a 360 experience, which I didn't stop to see, as even though it's raining, I'd like to press on and go somewhere else this afternoon. But overall, it was a really good experience. There's a lot of information there. Went down into the bunker as well, which was where the relevant people from the German side of things during Normandy were housed and made some important decisions there. So again, that was a little bit extra to do. So now I'm just going to make best pace back to the hotel, reluctantly get myself kitted up to get on the bike and go somewhere else. So see you in a bit. So I decided to come and have a look at the bits just outside first, just in case it starts raining again. I'm not sure that it will, but I don't want to get wet. So yeah, there's a couple of bits to look at on the outside. Sort of gun emplacement, this bridge, and a couple of tanks sort of towards the front of the place, the museum. So I head in, take a look. Okay, so that is the Overlord Museum done. And do you know what? I'm not sure that I've been there before. The museum I've been to definitely had like a tank outside the front of it, and then there was kind of a long walk up to it. But that was a really good museum. I actually think I enjoyed it more than one I went to this morning. And I think it did a much better job of summing up the lead up and whatever else to the war, and then obviously the whole part about the landings and whatever else. But yeah, very, very visual, some really good bits in there. But now I'm going to go down to the US cemetery, which I've never been to before. It's literally down the road, so off we go.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone.
Absolutely amazing, like just perfection. The rows are literally perfect, perfect lines, and it's just never ending. Like everywhere you look, there's stones. Like, yeah, it's very impressive. I think it makes you reflect a bit. Yeah, I'm quite happy just to be walking around here by myself. I think just being quiet and thinking. Yeah, it's an impressive place.
Hey, I was hoping you would stay, but I've always known you would go and find your own way. I still see when we climbed up in those trees, 12 years old, to feel the wind and watch the river run. And the sun would always shine when we sat there, you and I. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. The river's gonna cry.
So, day 3, what a day. Yeah, so this morning I woke up, had breakfast here at the hotel, and walked across to the Memorial de Caen, which was good. It's a massive, really impressive building, but it was very text heavy. It was very, don't get me wrong, it was very informative, but it was really, really text heavy. And that was fine. You know, I read as much as I could, and there was a decent amount of information there to tell you from sort of before, pre-war, the build-up, what happened within, and then the end. But I do like having some visual stuff to look at as well. So somebody I spoke to in the sort of breakfast hall this morning suggested the Overlord Museum, which is near Omaha Beach. I thought I'd been there before, but I haven't been there today. I don't think I have. And that was awesome. They did a really, really good job at the start of the museum to paint the picture and kind of explain what's what, the lead up, during, and then after. And then they had really, really good displays of vehicles, sort of mannequins dressed up in poses and whatever else, and explanations about each of the vehicles and that kind of stuff. So that was a really, really good museum, and it was like €10 cheaper than the one up here in Cannes. So I would highly recommend that one, going to that one. And it is literally just down the road from the American cemetery as well, where I went to. That was quite a humbling experience, to be honest. I'm quite glad that I went there by myself. Kind of makes you want to just sort of be within your own thoughts, I guess. Just seeing the sheer volume of gravestones, yeah, it's quite incredible, really. Yeah, they're perfectly in line. It's an amazing place. If you've never been, you should really go, just to experience what it feels like. But that kind of feeling of just being within your own thoughts definitely kind of that was quite an overpowering thing, actually. So yeah, it was probably a good thing that I went by myself, just to have that kind of alone time. And then as I was there, it started to rain. So the ride out there was nice and dry. It had rained in the morning when I was in the first museum, and it was dry when I got to the Overlord Museum, and then dry when I got to the cemetery. But as I was there, it started to rain. And I looked at the sky and thought, oh, I'll just hang on for a little bit and see if it blows over. And then I heard that they bring the flags down in the cemetery. It's 2 of them, and they do some sort of procession for it. And I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe that'd be quite an interesting thing to watch. And whilst it was, it was done formally, but it was just done by, I think, the staff there. And yeah, I probably could have not watched that, and that would have saved me from getting absolutely soaked. So as I was going back to my bike, it got heavier and heavier and heavier, and I put my wet weather gear on, jumped on the bike, and off I went. And it just so happened that it was a thunderstorm that I was riding into, which was directly over the top of Cannes. And I got absolutely soaked. Like, it was so heavy that I could feel every single raindrop hitting me. And the spray from other cars and stuff was, I think at a couple of points I must have been driving at about 30 miles an hour because it was that bad. I could barely see anything. But I tell you something, the drivers, some of the French drivers, that weather, they must have been doing a 90, some of them, like 90 miles an hour. They were flying past me. My sort of average speed must have been about 50. But they were absolutely flying past me. So I got absolutely soaked, and I got back here. My Gore-Tex jacket was wet on the inside. Everything was soaked. And I kind of had a thought of what do I do? Because if tomorrow's dry, which I don't know if it is or it isn't, but if it's dry, I don't want to be riding around in soaking wet gear. So I suddenly remembered that on my way back from Memorial de Cannes, there was a like a laundromat bit in the car park of the supermarkets just over the road. So I walked over there, had a look. It was €3 for 20 minutes of drying. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Chucked everything in there, and now it is dry. So the only thing that's still wet are my boots, which might be a bit uncomfortable tomorrow.
River's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when you're gone. It's gonna cry, it's gonna cry. River's gonna cry when you're gone. It's gonna cry.